Hello, and welcome to my Khans of Tarkir limited set review. So, Khans is coming to Arena. I want to preface this by saying that I have never played Khans of Tarkir. I have played with some of the cards, as you can see here. This card is a Khans of Tarkir card. I have some of the cards. I have never actually drafted the set or played with it really, like actually as like a real draft format. It's well liked by a lot of people. But I have not personally played it, and I'm treating this as if I would treat any other new set. I'm going into it trying to evaluate the cards on their own merit. It's an older set. There's a lot of cards I think are bad. I didn't really do like adjustments in terms of like. I mean, I did a little bit of adjusting in terms of like, oh, I mean, this card would be a tier 3 today, but like in this set, it might be a little bit better. What does the tiers mean? Well, hold on, let me just show you real quick. Those of you that haven't been here before, this is how I grade the cards. Tier 1 is good, Tier 5 is bad. Feel free to pause and read what the words there, but we're just going to get into it. And start off here with Abzan Battle Priest, 3 and a white for a 3/2 with Outlast for a single white. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter and it has lifelink. Yeah, I mean, like this card, right? You have a 4 mana 3/2, which in these days is like pretty bad, right? Especially against morph creatures. Like morph is where you can pay 3 mana to make a 2/2 on 3 with like, and then you can flip it up later. This isn't uncommon, so maybe it's supposed to be better than this. Like this card could be decent. Like I could just be underrating this in terms of like old format stuff, and getting lifelink is good. Probably less good. I would think lifelink would be considerably worse in Khans of Tarkir than it would be in a current limited format, just because the games are going to go on longer and like incremental life advantage probably doesn't matter so much. Like you're not getting like beat down on like turn 6, you know what I mean? It's just not really a thing that there's just not enough good 2 drops and 1 drops, it just isn't really a thing. Like you'll see throughout these reviews that the 1 drops are kind of like universally unplayable, like they're just not very good. So yeah. But I mean the giving all your creatures +1/+1 counters lifelink is nice. Outlast only being a sorcery, like so you basically you have to tap this to make it a 4/3 lifelink. And like you can't do it immediately, like it doesn't block well when it comes down. So I don't know. I'm hesitant on this one. Abzan Falconer, 2 and a white for 2/3 with Outlast for single white. Each creature with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Flying, much better. Is good. Well, not much. It's better than lifelink, but how much better is debatable. But the rate on this is so much better. A 3 mana 2/3 again on a set with morph. Like now, obviously, like morph has its own weird dynamics where you don't really want to block because they can flip up their thing and then eat your stuff. So you don't really want to be blocking the 2/2s if they have open mana. So like that is like a thing that like does kind of matter. But if they can't flip it, it means they're not attacking. So it is at least preventing attacks, right? Because you can like morph opens up a lot of bluff opportunities, um, and this can sort of shut those down a little bit. Yeah, and also like I think the Outlast ability is pretty good here. Like this seems decent to me. Like you on turn 4 you tap this, it becomes a 3/4 flyer. But if you have anything else with the +1/+1 counter on it, gains flying immediately. Yes, you took a turn off of attacking, but again, the rate like isn't so bad in Khans of Tarkir days. So I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it in tier 2, and maybe that's just like way too. Again, in modern limited, this would be like a tier 5 card. I would put this at like tier 5, 3 mana 2/3, no text, whatever. Like it's just too like Outlast is too slow of a mechanic to work in a modern limited context. But in this limited context, I could see it being, you know, and it is only 1 mana. Like it's only 1 mana to Outlast, which is nice. Unlike this one, which is 2 mana to Outlast. It's a 1 and a white for a 2/1. That's Enoch Bondkin. It has Outlast for 1 and a white, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter has first strike. I like this. I don't hate this. Like you again, you're probably not gonna have great attacks on like turn 3. I mean, it is more awkward. What you kind of want to do is it's awkward, right? You want to go like Outlast, and then you want to tap your guys, and then you're not attacking, but you're like building up your dudes. But I don't know. I think that this is decent because it's a reasonable 2 drop. It looks like a reasonable 2 drop to me, and there are not very many reasonable 2 drops. So mean, it's possible that 2-drops just literally don't matter at all, and you don't have to play them. That's what people have said that, but I don't know if that's actually true or if that was just kind of like a thing that people thought at the time. Um, People are better at Magic than they were in, what was it, 2016 when Khans came out? Let me check. 2014, yeah, 2014, 2015. People are better at Magic now, so the games are going to be faster than they were in 2014. Alabaster Kieran, 3 and a white for a 2/3 flying vigilance. There's no other additional text. So when I saw this card, it made me like want to jump out of a window, kind of, because I was like, oh man, it's so bad. But then I was like, well, is it really that bad? It has vigilance and flying. Like it blocks like pretty well. Yes, it doesn't do anything when it enters the battlefield, but neither do any of the other creatures in the entire format. So, like, I don't know. It kind of seems like your average common to me. Could be wrong, but it certainly seems playable. Like, it certainly seems like you could play this and it wouldn't be a complete disaster. Yeah. Brave the Sands. 1 and a white for an enchantment. Creatures you control have vigilance. Each creature you control can block an additional creature. Not good. There's not really much to say about this. It's 2 mana and it doesn't do anything. Dazzling Ramparts. 4 and a white for a 0/7 defender with 1 and a white and tap it to tap target creature. I'm not interested in this. It's an uncommon. It's probably honestly kind of okay. Like, I have this in tier 5. It probably should be in tier 4, but I hate it so much that, like, I don't want to do that. The problem with this card is that you're tapping your 5-drop to tap down, like, one of their creatures, which just doesn't seem like a good deal to me, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, this I guess, like, my question is this ability really ever actually doing anything? Because you could probably just block the thing that you want to tap down, because you have 7 toughness. Like, are you really that worried about tapping their thing? Probably not. So, yeah, I'm not super interested in this card. Defiant Strike, we've seen this before. Single white mana for target an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, draw a card. It's not good. It's not good enough. +1/+0, draw a card. It doesn't. It's just not. It's too low impact, right? Like, you get to, it replaces itself and whatnot, and you can just cycle it, and that's fine. But it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do, like, it works with prowess. You know what, actually? There's probably a deck that wants this. There's a bunch of prowess creatures, and if you have, like, super focused, like, prowess, like, if you have all the prowess 2-drops, there's, like, 3 or 4 prowess 2-drops. If you have all of the prowess 2-drops, this is probably fine in that deck. So I think there's actually a deck that could play it, but I think that in your average deck, it's going to just be terrible. Because it doesn't really ever get you anything. You know what I mean? It very rarely is good, unless you have a bunch of prowess stuff, which there is some prowess stuff, and so maybe with the prowess stuff, and Alright, I'm gonna keep it in tier 5. End hostilities, 3 white for a sorcery, destroy all creatures, and all permanents attached to creatures. So this destroys equipment as well, not that anyone's playing any equipment in this set, but that does happen. 3 white for a Wrath is bad, but again, you have plenty of time to get to turn 5 in this format, and so I put it in tier 3, which I think is reasonable. Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of Wraths in the set. This one, and there's Dune Blast, which we'll see way later. Yeah, I don't know. Not anything that I'm, like, super interested in. It's like, if you like doing the Wrath thing, like, go nuts. This is your deal, but yeah. Erase. Single white mana for an instant, exile target enchantment. So there's not enough enchantments, and specifically not enough playable enchantments. All the enchantments are like Fs, so like tier 5 cards, so this is also bad. And you don't want it. Feat of Resistance. 1 and a white for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains protection from the color of choice until end of turn. So this card was recently reprinted. I think it was in Brothers Roar. It wasn't like exactly a reprint because it gave you the choice of also colorless. But yeah, no, that card was really good in that format. And I expect this card to be probably slightly worse because, again, the format's not as fast. So, you know, tricks like this just aren't as good. But the ability to just sometimes be like, yep, now I have lethal because you only have green creatures on the board, and I say pro green and you die. Like, it's a real ability. It's a real thing. It comes up. It matters. This card seems really strong, so I'm going to put it in tier 2. Firehoof Cavalry, single white mana for a 1/1, which has the ability 3 in a red, and it gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. No. I won't. I simply won't, actually. I just won't be doing this. Yeah, no thanks. Herald of Anafenza, single white mana for a 1/2 with Outlast, 2 and a white. Whenever you activate its Outlast ability, put a +1/+1 white, put a 1/1 white warrior creature token onto the battlefield. So I've put this in tier 1. I would not put this in tier 1 today, for clarity's purposes. I think this would be like a tier 3 card today, even. Maybe it would even be worse than that. But, it is a 1 mana card that, like, it allows you to outlast and just keep making, like, it gives you stuff to do over the course of the game, and it, like, makes a bunch of guys. Like, obviously the weakness with Outlast is you have to tap your creature to make it bigger, right? You're taking the turn off to do that. But this rewards you for that because it gives you another body to block with and do other stuff with, and, like, it just seems really good to me. Yeah, like, you can play this, like, again, on turn 3, this could just be your 3-drop. It's like, yep, I'm going to outlast this, and I'm going to make a 1/1, and then this thing's going to get bigger, and my opponent has to deal with it, and, like, it's kind of a nightmare, right? Removal isn't good in these sets, so you just making a 1/1 every turn and making this bigger is, like, hard for your opponent to deal with in a lot of cases, so, yeah, I really like it. And, it doesn't have, like, the smooth curve, you know, like, it doesn't have, like, a smooth curve. None of the Outlast stuff really does. But yeah, I like it. I think it's good. High Sentinels of Arisin, 3 and a white for a 3/4 flyer. It gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, and you can pay 3 and a white to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So I put this in tier 1. Again, wouldn't be there today. I debated about putting it lower. But in these times, if you just had, like, a 4 mana 3/4 flyer, and, like, it just that was just huge. And the fact that you can just make your stuff, like, you can just start paying mana, put your +1/+1 counters on target creatures, you know, it seems good. It enables itself. As we've seen, there's a nice decent amount of Outlast stuff. The Outlast stuff, again, not super great. I don't have a great feel for how many +1/+1 counters are going to be, like, flying around in this set. But I don't think there's going to be 0. And if this is a 4/5 flyer for 4, it's, like, super nuts. So, like, it's really good. Yeah, like, your opponents basically just, like, can't deal with this card, so it has gone into tier 1, and again, I may regret that. I may regret saying that, and maybe you're like, oh no, it still is. Because, again, I used sort of my retro mindset where I was like, hey, this type of card today, would it be good? I mean, Archon of, like, Grace in Wilds of Eldraine was fine. Now, that was double pipped, so that's a lot worse than being single pipped. I think if that card were single pipped, it would have been a lot better. If it weren't double pipped, it would have been a lot better. This one is single pipped, and doesn't make your stuff 4/4 flyers. So, yeah, I don't, I'm not super, you know. But I've gone back in time. I've said, you know, but we'll give it a little bit of time credit here. Jeskai Student, the card I was talking about, 1 and a white for a 1/3 with prowess. They've reprinted this in, like, I think, well, they've reprinted it in red for sure. I don't know if they've reprinted it in blue or not. It might be the first, like, 3 color shifted, you know, card. But yeah, this card seems good to me. Again, I think there's, like, a prowess aggro-y type deck that, like, you can do this thing. If you're not doing the thing, you probably just never want to play it because it's a 1/3. There's a lot. I mean, in this set, there's a lot of toughness and not a lot of power flying around. Like, there's just a lot. There's going to be tons and tons of board stalls. At least it looks like that way to me, because there are just, like, so many things with, like, it's a 2/5, it's a 1/4, it's a 1/5, it's a 3/5. You know what I mean? Like, it's just all these just creatures that just don't attack and block really well. So it just seems like it's going to be really tough to get stuff through on the ground, and this does run into that problem a little bit. Kill Shot, 2 and white, instant, destroy target attacking creature. Look at how much simpler text boxes used to be, man. Like, this whole set review is going to take way less time because I'm doing way less talking. But yeah, no, this is a type of card, you can play it in a controlling deck. White can do controlling deck things, and you can probably play this. It's probably fine, and that's kind of all I have to say about it. I don't think there's really a whole lot more. You kind of know when you need it, right? Mardu Hate Blade. Single white mana for 1/1 with the ability Swamp black. It gains Death Touch until end of turn. I put this in tier 5. I think it is a tier 5 card. Just, you know, you have to play 2 colors to make this thing even semi-functional, and even then it's not very good, so I'm not going to be playing it. Again, 1-drops in a game state with a bunch of tap lands, which this set has, and a bunch of like just not affecting the board 1-drops. Just especially this one just doesn't do anything. Mardu Horde Chief, 2 and a white for a 2/3. It has raid. Whenever it enters the battlefield, if you attack this turn, put a +1/+1 or put a 1/1 white warrior creature token onto the battlefield. Yeah, this seems really good to me. Again, a 3-mana 2/3 in these days like wasn't bad. Like it just wasn't that bad. And if you can get like if you go 2-drop into this, you're winning. Like you're just like way ahead, right? Even today, like if you printed a 3-mana 2/3 that said make a 1/1 when it enters the battlefield, how good would that card be today? It would be like a tier 2 card. It would be a tier 2 card today. Now, obviously, this card does not say that. It has a lot of conditions, and as a result, I have bumped it down. But yeah, I mean, it's still good. It's still a very good card, especially in your assertive decks. But you're not always attacking. That's the key. Is that sometimes you gotta block sometimes, and you gotta not play this card on turn 3 sometimes. But I still think it's fine. So I'm a fan of this card. Master Pearls. 1 white for a 2/2 with Morph for 3 white. If you don't know what Morph does, you can basically. It's very weird. You put the card face down. You pay 3 mana to do that. It's a 2/2. And then you can pay the cost on the backside to flip it over. It's kind of a clumsy mechanic because you have to know what it costs to flip it over and pay it. It's weird. But when you turn this one card face up, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn, which is a very real ability. Very real. It has late game implications and whatnot. There's all kinds of like weird, tricky things you can do with Morph. This one can just like kill people. You can just on turn 5 just jam this and then attack and then flip it, and then they just like get Omega blown out. So that seems good to me. I don't know how to evaluate the Morph cards because it just like in my brain when I see like 3-mana 2/2, I'm like it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. If I play a 3-mana 2/2, I lose. I don't think that's the case in this format. So I think you can play a 3-mana 2/2 in this format and not just lose the game instantly like you would today. And yes, for that reason I've given this tier 3. That might be too low. Rush of Battle. 3 and a white for sorcery. Oh, it's a sorcery? Oh, I misread that. Move this to tier 5 for me, please. Editor? It's me, I'm the editor, I edited it. It's in tier 5 now, it's a sorcery, it sucks. I don't want to talk about it anymore, I hate it. I thought it was kind of interesting as an instant. Sage Eye Harrier. 4 and a white for a 1/5 with flying. It has more for 3 and a white. Yeah, no, this is sort of what I was talking about earlier, where I was like, there's a lot of creatures in this format that are just like, this is a 1/5. They don't really print 1/5s anymore because of... I mean, they don't print cards like this anymore because they suck. Basically. They're not very good, and they make the game take forever because they just sit there being like, I'm going to block your thing, but I'm not going to contribute anything. I'm just going to lose 2 life this turn instead of 1, and my creature's going to do absolutely nothing. This card might be okay. It might be a tier 4 card, but I just... Like, the stat line on this card, like, I hate everything about it. So I'm over it to min. It's 5 mana. Salt Road Patrol, 3 and a white for a 2/5 with Outlast for 1 and a white. Yep, it has no abilities on it. It just has Outlast. I mean, it gets bigger. Like I don't hate this as much as some of the other cards. But again, it's 2/5. It's a freaking 2/5. A 2/5 is bad. It's so bad. And these days, a 2/5 for 4, it's not that bad. It's not like the end of Planet Earth if you have a 2/5 for 4. But man, whew, it's gonna take forever for this thing to be like relevant. But you know, I mean, at some point, it may very well be able to attack and do something. So that's why I put it in tier 4. Seeker of the Way, 1 and a white for 2/2 with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gains lifelink until end of turn. This card is great. It's really good. There are reasons why they don't print 2/2 prowess very often. It's because the stat line is just very, very good. They usually do 1/3s with prowess or 1/2s with prowess because they know if you give equal power and toughness for a prowess creature on curve, it's probably going to be a little bit too good. This card even gets lifelink when you like trigger the prowess. It's going to be able to attack through everything. There's going to be no creature like this thing just attack. It's so cracked. If you attack with this on turn 3, like your opponent like can't block with their 2/2 probably. Like this is a card that would make me want to play Defiant Strike. If I like had this card in my deck, I'd be like, you know what, man, I just need anything that's an instant or sorcery just needs to get in the deck. Like I don't care. Like if you trigger this once in a game, you're probably just thrilled. I don't know. So either way, I mean, this is one of those cards that I'm like, yeah, if they printed it today, it would be probably even better than it was in you know this set, which I think is probably one of the best 2-drops. Probably it's either this or the one in green that are like really good. But yeah, this card's super busted. Siegecraft, 3 and a white for an enchantment. Aura, enchanted creature gets +2/+4. Man, remember when they printed these bad boys? They used to print these bad boys all the time in white. Just like Aura enchantment. You can make your thing bigger for 5 mana, you know? This one's only 4. I don't. It's not good. It's got like, a nice little artwork though. I like the artwork, so that's nice. Smite the Monstrous, 3 and a white for an instant, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. No, thank you. This is way too situational for a 4-mana card. Yes, it kills the big stuff, but... And yes, power 4 or greater is a theme in the format, but I don't think it's very good, so I'm not, In a world of morph, this just seems terrible. Suspension Field, 1 and a white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target creature with toughness 3 or greater until Suspension Field leaves the battlefield. So, I put this in tier 2, and like it's possible that that's just like too high. But toughness 3, there's a lot of stuff in this format that's like, I'm gonna play a freaking 1/5. Like there's a lot of stuff like that. So this hits actually like a decent amount of the creatures. And it's good against like outlast things that your opponent's like putting mana into to make them bigger. It's good just, efficiency wise. Again, the format is not about like I'm gonna get beat down in like 6 turns. Like that's just not gonna happen in this format. Again, I've heard that there are aggro decks in the format. There's aggressive decks. Again, we talked about Seeker of the Way. Seeker of the Way is sort of like the key, one of the key cards I think to that. But yeah, I mean this card just seems solid to me. It doesn't seem bad. And yeah, I like it. It's also a non-creature spell, so. Take Up Arms, 4 and a white for an instant. Put 3/1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. So this is Captain's Call, but it's at instant speed. You tack another mana on. It's probably too expensive, but I put it in tier 4 instead of tier 5 just because it is an instant. Like, it's 3 things. It makes 3 guys. There's not really a whole lot you can do with the tokens in this set, to be honest with you, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not very good. I'm not going to be playing it, but I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. Timely Horde-Mate, 3 and a white for 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So obviously this is very good if it triggers, right? If you get everything out of this card, it's great. However, there's so much stuff that has to go right for this card to be even functional. Like, you have to have a good attack on the turn that you're attacking, right? You also have to have a 2 mana exactly, because none of the 1-drops are playable. None of the 1-drops are playable, so you have to basically have exactly a 2-drop in your graveyard. And the 2-drops aren't great either. So, like, you need to have stuff, and then you need to have other cheap creatures. Like, it's just so much work. This card is so much work, and it is a good reward, right? Like, it's good, like a 4 mana, 3/2, get a 2/2 back. That's good. But if they just printed that card by itself, would it even be that good? It would be okay. Right? I mean, like, they just printed that with flying. So, like, I mean, it's good. It would be good if it did that, but even if it does that, and I don't know. I'm not a buyer of this card. Venerable Lamassu, 6 and a white for a 5/4 flying. I put this in tier 4. It's a 7 mana 5/4 flyer. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I feel like this could just genuinely end games. Like, I feel like this is like the way that games used to end. This could just be like my perception of how games used to end. Like, yep, back in my day we played 7 mana 5/4 flyers and we were happy about it. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll just take your guys' word for it. This card's like kind of playable. It does look terrible. Like, I put this in tier 4 instead of tier 5, and it does look terrible. But I do kind of genuinely think like, hey man, like there's much worse stuff that I've seen in this format. There's stuff that I've seen that is way worse than this. Like at least this like threatens to end the game in like 3 turns likely, you know. So yeah, I don't know. War Behemoth, 5 and a white for a 3/6 with morph. Yeah, I don't know. I probably this is probably too high. This is another again. All of these white creatures where it's like it's a 3/6. Good luck ever doing anything in the game. Good luck enjoying the game. It's a freaking 3/6 in play. This one you probably are morphing a lot, and like this one's like good to do like the morph thing with, where you like attack and you're like, oh, are you gonna block? I'm gonna flip my thing and it's gonna turn into a war behemoth, and like that makes it kind of playable, you know. I mean, when everything is tier 4 or tier 5, like if everything's like terrible, something's got to be in tier 4. So I'm putting this in tier 4. I don't know. They all seem bad, so we'll just be advised. Watcher of the Roost, 2 and a white for 2/1 with flying. It has morph, reveal a white card in your hand, and when it's turned face up, you gain 2 life. I don't know how often you're going to be doing that, but I mean, if you think about it, like, it's a 3 mana, 2/1 flying, gain 2. They printed that recently, I think. They actually printed that card in. Oh man, it was in the set after Essence. It was in DMU. DMU had this card exactly. 3 mana, 2/1 flyer, gain 2 life, and it was unplayable. It was a tier 5 card. I never cast it. This card I think is better than that, and also it's 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So it's a lot like a 3 mana 2/1 flyer was a lot better then than it is now, and this one maybe gains you some life. So yeah. And this is the last card in white, Wingmate Rock. 3 white for a 3/4 flying. It has raid. When it enters the battlefield, if you attack with a creature this turn, put a 3/4 bird creature token onto the battlefield, and whenever it attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking creature. Yeah, this card's super great. If you printed this card today, it would probably still be close to a tier 1, maybe it would be tier 2, depending on the format. But yeah, I mean, this is just like worst case scenario. You're like, okay, I'm gonna attack my 2/2 into your like 3/3, and like I'm gonna make a 3/4. like up, I turn my 2/2 into a 3/4 flyer. I mean, that's not that bad, right? So, yeah, even if you're like trading your small thing into a flyer, like it's great. And then yet if you don't, you just win, like you just straight up win. So yeah, that's all the white cards. Faster set review than normal. There's fewer cards in this format, I think, and also it's a multicolor set, so there's more multicolor stuff. But hope you enjoyed. Hope there was some. I mean, there's not a whole lot of insight to be gleaned because I'm learning alongside you here with the cards. But this is just this is if Khans were released today, this is what I would be saying about these cards. If this next format they come up with a bunch of cards like this is what I'm going to be saying. I'm going to be saying this card's terrible, this card's terrible, right? And yeah, so that's all for this episode, and see you next time.